Welcome back. We're going to skip the formalities, like, subscribe for more Batman content, and comment your thoughts upon literally anything, and I'll talk about it. Anyway, today we'll be rating Heir to the Cowl, one of only 2 side missions which lets you choose the ending, and one of many in this game which falls flat on its promises made in previous entries in the series. Azrael is a cool idea. Nightfall is a great story in which Azrael gets to shine, but this game forgot how cool Azrael was, and so let's get into the story of Azrael, as we rank Heir to the Cowl. Subscribe, we're going for 1,000, love you. Heir to the Cowl begins when Batman's alerted to a burning bat symbol on a rooftop in Kingston. Batman goes to investigate and comes across Azrael, formerly GCPD officer Michael Lane, sat atop the rooftop in front of a burning bat symbol. The two engage in conversation, with Azrael stating that the day of Gotham falling he told him about back in Arkham City has finally arrived, and Gotham needs a Batman and Batman needs a successor, who's skilled enough to keep Gotham safe in the event of Batman's death. Batman lets Azrael take on a simulation of multiple enemies, the stipulation being he has to take down these enemies without being hit. If he's hit, he has to restart until he completes the trial. Batman uses these simulations to study Azrael and finds his fighting style is nearly an exact copy of his own from Alfred as the night goes on. Batman finds Azrael 3 more times and keeps putting him through these increasingly tough challenges, all combat based, ranging from large groups of enemies with weapons to a group of militia ninjas, which Azrael manages to take down, proving himself worthy of the cowl should Batman perish one day. However, after the final challenge, Azrael states that Gotham needs Azrael now. Batman tells Azrael that that's not how this is going to work, and Azrael disappears before Alfred tells Batman he's found his real identity, a former GCPD officer called Michael Lane, who was discharged following several psychological issues as well as finding an irregularity in his physiology. Batman heads back to the clock tower to study Azrael, where he finds Lane has a chip implanted in his brain, which is subconsciously changing and altering his memories. The symbols found in these memories are that of the Order of Saint Dumas, who have brainwashed Michael into being their soldier. Batman finds all of the symbols and deciphers the message left within the symbols. The message tells Azrael to do what he spent his time doing as Azrael. Learn from Batman, study his every move, and when the day comes, take over the mantle, kill Batman, and protect Gotham as the Dark Knight does. Azrael breaks into the clock tower and Batman addresses him as Michael, his real name, and he gives him a choice. He either kills him or leaves and remembers who he really is. The player then takes control of Azrael and goes to grab his sword, which he handed over to Batman at the start of the mission. And here we can either kill Batman or seek revenge against the Order. If the player decides to kill Batman, Batman will sidestep him and take Azrael down, and then take him to GCPD lockup, bringing his journey to an end. If the player decides Azrael will come to his senses, Azrael will either snap the sword or completely leave it alone, making amends with Batman before heading on his hunt for redemption against the Order. Overall, I like this story, especially the last segment in the clock tower. It's a bit of a letdown considering Azrael's set up in Arkham City, but that seems to be a theme throughout this game, building our expectations high and then bringing them crashing right back down to earth. But as its own mission line, taking away any expectations, it's not that bad. It has a good, if not short, story, and we get some more information about Azrael, which is good because he's a really cool character who doesn't get enough limelight in mainstream media, so it was nice that he got a bit more here. I do have one gripe with this mission, but I know why this gripe exists, and it does have a reason for existing, but why would Batman choose this clearly mentally ill Knight of the Templar looking dude to be Gotham's protector based off of 4 combat challenges? Nightwing's in Bloodhaven, that makes sense, but Robin is still about, Oracle, although not physically fit, is still helping out, and if all else fails, Nightwing could do double duty with Robin across Gotham and Bloodhaven. I know that sounds like a lot of work, but in the state Batman leaves Gotham in after Arkham Knight, which seems to be a state of unprecedented peace, all of his villains are dead or locked up for a while. Is it really needed to have Azrael, who's genuinely a little unhinged, and as we know from the Nightfall story, has murderous intentions despite him telling Batman that he won't kill? It just doesn't seem to make sense he'd genuinely consider Azrael as the heir to the cowl and the cape. I'm not sure if I'm missing something really simple as to why he would consider this Watcher in the Wings as next in line, but it just never quite sat right with me. He doesn't prove himself as anything but a competent fighter. Half of Batman's work and skill set is his physical traits and feats, but the other half is his strategic mind, his detective work, his unmatched mental capacity, his iron will, and everything that goes with that. Things he'll have instilled into Dick and Tim from a young age, and things he doesn't know if Azrael has. It's always been a weird decision for me for Batman to take this proposition seriously. But I think if this had have gone further, he'd probably have vetted him further, or at least I hope he would. Given everything we've just mentioned, combined with the pretty meh follow-up to his introduction in City, Heir to the Cowl gets a lukewarm 5 out of 10. So, let's look at the gameplay. The gameplay of this mission is fairly straightforward. There's 4 combat sections, all of which have added stipulation of you, Azrael, not being allowed to be hit, or else you'll fail. This mission is really cool in that we get to play as a different character in Azrael. In theory, this is a great idea, but in practice, this is a reskinned Batman. Not a bad thing for familiarity's sake, but on the flip side, this kind of sucks. We get to control a seemingly more brutal and snappy Batman, but he controls the exact same and keeps the exact same moveset. This is explained in-game as Azrael having studied Batman's moveset since Arkham City, and he doesn't want to kill if Batman doesn't, and this does make sense. But it would have been nice to see some mix-up. Maybe like in the final Joker section of the main story at the end of the game, where every now and then Batman's moveset is mixed in with Joker's more brutal fighting style. It would have been cool to see this, but with Azrael's own fighting style instilled in there somewhere. That would have been nice, but overall, this is pretty cool. These sections act like combat challenges more than anything else, and the added stipulation of not being allowed to be hit really puts you on edge. And the harder the sections get, the more gadget skills and takedowns you'll need to utilise to make sure you don't get hit, and that's pretty cool. The final section has an exclusively ninja-based contingency, and this section can be quite tough. It throws you off your usual combat style and makes you adapt to the more fluid and difficult ninjas. Each section does get increasingly harder, so it's nice to see Rocksteady just go, fuck it, and throw a group of these enemies at us, because I know for most people, including me, these guys are an issue. The final part of the mission is a detective mission, where you have to scrub through Azrael or Michael Lane's memories to find implanted symbols that were placed in his memories by the Order of Saint Dumas. This is a pretty cool section, and I think the music here deserves a special shout out. It's very angelic, I think. It's great. But yeah, this section is pretty cool. It requires some attention and is a nice ending to the combat-centric mission line. The final choice at the end is also pretty cool. Either Azrael breaks the sword and swears to destroy the Order of Saint Dumas, or attempts to kill Batman and take his place. It kind of puts you in a weird position, because we don't really know what Azrael would do. I always break the sword, assuming Lane will have regained a bit of control over his own mind over the brainwashing, and realise that attempting to kill Batman is a poor choice, but I'm honestly not sure. It's not as big of a choice as the choice presented in Shadow War, but it's a nice choice nonetheless, and that's always welcome. Overall, the gameplay for Heir to the Cowl is pretty good. That's about as far as I can go, it's alright. The combat sections are cool, but the added stipulation of not being hit is the only change here from any other combat section. And the detective gameplay at the end is, again, good. It's really, really okay. It doesn't try anything we hadn't done before, and doesn't introduce any new mechanics, and so for these reasons the gameplay gets a little bit of a disappointing 6 out of 10. It could have been something so much more, but alas. Let's see how hard this mission line is, but before we do, a lot of you guys aren't subscribed, so be sure to do that to not miss another video, especially if you're a Batman fan, because I make Batman videos. Difficulty is hard to rate, so as per usual, we'll be doing a stand-in of someone who's played all the games on hard, and is good at them, and ranking the difficulty based on someone with that skill set. And so for the penultimate episode of this series, we're going to be using Marcus Phoenix, from hit third-person shooter franchise... Gears of War. Gears of War is one of my personal favourite franchises, and so Marcus will be our main man here, so let's go. The main part of this mission revolves around the combat section and their difficulty, which increases as the missions go on. beginning with a complete cakewalk and increasing in difficulty to you having to fight ninjas. And I hate ninjas. It works well and is quite hard if you're not on your A game. A stray punch or a random thrown object can bring Azrael's run to an end, and this can prove to be quite tricky, especially if you're already thrown off by dropping a combo or something else. The final segment with the ninjas is genuinely my worst nightmare. I've had sleepless nights over these guys. Their attack patterns are so different, and if you're used to the timings of usual thugs, these guys can be a complete spanner in the works. But Sergeant Phoenix has dealt with worse, and so doesn't fear ninjas or being hit by their swords. The detective part is really simple. You just scrub through Azrael's memories until you spot symbols from the Order's brainwashing, scan them, and then move on. It's pretty easy, even if you aren't really paying attention. They're on screen long enough to give you plenty of chance to see them, so there's no real difficulty here. That's it really. The choice at the end is simple. Either Azrael goes on his own mission of vengeance, or Azrael goes on his own mission to the GCPD lockup. That's it really, it just depends which ending you think's cooler. Overall, Marcus doesn't have an issue with this mission, maybe getting hit by a stray punch or a random environmental hazard, but nothing too crazy. And he gets through the detective part easily, there's no real challenge here at all. So difficulty wise, Heir to the Cowl gets a 6 out of 10. Overall, Heir to the Cowl gets a lukewarm, slightly disappointing 17 out of 30. A low score for what could have been a great mission. I like it personally and think it does a job. Not a great one, but it does a job for a character who definitely always deserves more screen time. Subscribe to see the season finale when we rank the Riddler's Revenge. But before the season finale, the supercut of every one of these videos, shorts included because we don't discriminate, for your continuous viewing pleasure will be out. It's turned out to be a bit of an editing minefield because I'm trying to make it more seamless and not like have the intros and outros there. And that sounds really easy, but trust me, it's becoming a bit of an issue, but that will be out soon. And with that, like, subscribe, comment I love Killer Croc if you're still watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.